volcano. It has destroyed homes, flooded streets, and left more than 80 people dead. Parts of India and Bangladesh are still taking stock of the damage left in the wake of a cyclone, the most powerful one to hit the region in about 20 years. The spread of the coronavirus only complicates whatever cleanup and rebuilding efforts will come after. This afternoon, we're turning our attention to some of the fears and concerns that the heavy rains and winds are posing for Rohingya refugees in Bangladesh. Rajesh Tinmung is the founder and board chair for the Rohingya Human Rights Network. He makes regular visits to the camps in Bangladesh. He's on the phone with me this afternoon. Hello there.
Hi, Alan.
So far, I know Cox's Bazar in Bangladesh, where 1 million Rohingya refugees live, hasn't seen the same kind of destruction from the cyclone that we've seen elsewhere, but I know the rains have been cause for worry there. What are you hearing from people who are on the ground?
Well, they are bracing for the worst. After the last quote-unquote cyclone, that we would say, to hit us was the news of the coronavirus. We are still, people, the biggest preoccupation on their minds at the moment still the coronavirus. And while that's still going on, you have a cyclone that's coming their way. And so it's one after another, and we brace for it. There is nothing else we can do.
There was a report yesterday from Human Rights Watch that the Bangladesh government had kept over 300 Rohingya refugees on Basan Char. I hope I'm saying that correctly. This is a remote island that it says could be submerged by a cyclone. What is? Do we know that is the case? This idea that it's submerged at this point. What's happening to those people?
So Basan Char is an island that's known for its history of getting flooded easily because it's compared to mainland Bangladesh, which is already very prone to flooding, because of its elevation compared to sea levels. The Basan Char Island is even worse. And so the entire idea of relocating my people over there, it has been objected by international aid organizations and NGOs across the platform. And this threat remains. Remains even more amplified. The threat remains, and just the fact that cyclone is going to come anytime. The 300 people who have been relocated there recently, it's really a matter of concern. And I don't know if you're aware, the reason why they were relocated there was because they were found in a boat of human trafficking. Not too long ago, we were looking at about just 3 weeks ago when this human trafficking issue just hit the news, and it was all over the media, and also, our main preoccupation. And then came the COVID, kept positive, and now we are having to deal with the cyclone. So it's just one after another once again. But those 300 people are those who are on a human trafficking boat that was rejected by Malaysia, and they originated from Myanmar, where living conditions are extremely dire. And finally, Bangladesh accepted them, except that Bangladesh relocated them into this island, and that's where they are stuck now.
The number of forces aligning here to create the situation is almost unthinkable. You've got a cyclone, this windstorm, you've got the coronavirus, you've got, of course, the political situations that the individuals are fleeing as well. I'm wondering, even now, Cox's Bazar, for example, has confirmed the cases of COVID-19. How do you prevent people from the impact of winds, floods, and coronavirus all at the same time?
There are no easy answers, Alan. You see, I and a small team of volunteers here in Canada, we lead a network of schools in Cox's Bazar as well as in the villages. Our schools have been shut for about the last 2 months. Alongside schools, we also have some vocational training centers in which we train sewing and we help women to earn a living with those sewing machines. So we have mobilized our team to make some masks. That's one thing that we are doing, because masks and personal protective equipment is something that we look at to go a little bit of distance to help prevent the spread, which is inevitable in a place like Cox's Bazar, the refugee camps. People are living so close to each other. You're looking at about 40,000 to about 60,000. That's what reports say per square kilometer. Living, 1 million people basically living in a small town. You could say half of Gatineau or even smaller is the amount of area that you have for cramming 1 million people in there. So it's inevitable that will spread. And so we're taking precautions the least we can with masks, with soap, which is really rare, which is really, not so, it's not in every household. So by distributing hygiene kits, but with the conditions that we are living in, the spread of coronavirus and the cyclone coming will not, all the preventive measures that we're doing is not going to be sufficient unless there is ample aid coming and ample support coming. It's not going to be sufficient to prevent the spread.
When you say aid, what aid is most important at this juncture?
We're looking at support at least in terms of personal protective equipment. If you talk about medical, on the medical front, there's a vast need in that front as well. Not even, I believe it's about a week ago that I was looking at a report from UNHCR, from Save the Children, that talked about only 10 ICU beds and a handful of isolation facilities that are out there for the 1 million Rohingya population and neighboring villages. It's about 400,000 people. So you're looking at about 1.4 million people to 1.5 million people. Some estimates say it's 1.1, 1.2 million Rohingya. So for all these people, you only have 10 ICU beds and a handful of about a few hundred isolation beds. We're looking at no ventilators. The ventilators are in dire, they're absolutely in need. You have a few ventilators for all of Bangladesh. So these kind of items, which could be provided by international aid organizations, will go a long way to help with the fight of COVID-19, especially at the camps and the vulnerable population in Cox's Bazar.
But the challenges in getting that aid to the people who need it. Can you talk to me a little bit about that, to the ensuring that it gets to those who need it the most?
That's a very good question, because as of a month and a half ago, you would say, when COVID news started coming out, and Bangladesh also started putting its own measures on isolation and on shutting down facilities. The Rohingya refugee camps were hit directly by cut down of aid and by cutting down of healthcare workers and just aid in general. So everything has been scaled down, just as we see elsewhere and all over the world. Similar measures were taking place in Bangladesh as well. And so the refugee camps, we always see this phenomena for every economic, environmental, any catastrophe. The poorest of the poor always hit the most. It's not particular to Rohingya, I must say. So for us, we have seen aid going down. We've seen healthcare workers reducing in their numbers, and so the delivery of this aid reaching these essential supplies to the people of the camps will be an enormous challenge unless the Bangladeshi government does something to change its policies and make an exception in the aftermath or in the light of this storm.
I can imagine how hard it is for you to be watching this unfold. You're here in Ottawa, hearing about these concerns and seeing some of these images. What has this been like for you? It's just a sense of helplessness. There isn't. The most we can do is mobilize people, mobilize our school teachers, for example, to spread awareness about hand washing, about social distancing, produce masks and distribute them amongst vulnerable populations. The other giant challenge that we have to deal with constantly is the fact that the Bangladeshi
British government has banned internet access to the camps, and this has been in effect since last year, as a matter of fact, since September 2019. With lack of internet access, people do not have, the necessary information that's required available to them readily. There's a vast majority of the population of the camp that do not even know the severity of COVID. They just think of it as another disease, anything else. And the whole idea of social distancing, first of all, it's very hard to practice social distancing in an area like the camps, but to have a concept, a proper understanding of it, that requires information. And that information is not at their availability because of this internet blackout. So that's another thing that we have to deal with at COPAM. So I do whatever I can. I and my small team of volunteers here, we do whatever we can, and we urge the Canadian government and Western and its allies.
Raz, we'll have to hold it there, but thank you very much for being with us today. Raz Tinmung, founder and board chair of the Rohingya Human Rights Network. You're listening to All in a Day. It's 5:30.
What you are looking at is a genuine relic that supports the actual truth, which is the South won the war.
Okay. The South won the war?
Yep.